Have you noticed that when you make a plan, like let's say you're gonna travel, the idea is, or your fantasy about it is often better than the actual event? You know, have you noticed that? That you're planning, let's say you're planning a trip somewhere, right? And you're thinking, you're fantasizing about how it's going to be, like what you're gonna do, like um, you're evaluating the whole thing, and you're gonna you're you're assuming that it's gonna be wonderful, right? But then when you're already on the road, uh, usually what happens does not meet your expectations, right? It's usually nicer when you were imagining it than when it actually happened. And I think that that applies to a lot of other areas in life. So, for example, relationships, right? Or just anything. The mind plays tricks on you all the time. You know, it's like when you desire something. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I sometimes desire something and I think, yeah, once I have this, it's going to be much better. Or if I could only have this, then my life would be complete, or it would be much, much better. And then when you finally have it, it doesn't feel very different from what you always felt. You know, like you you get used to things. It's almost like when you, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you enter when you when you're in somebody's house or you enter a room where there's a strong smell, you know, whether it's good or bad, you get used to it. Like the first minute or so, you notice it. You're like, "Oh, it smells funny here." You know, but after a while, you just get used to it. You know, or it's like when you're driving a car. I notice that when I come back to Spain after being abroad, and I've been driving a different car, and then I come here, and my car feels funny for like the first, I would say maybe the first 20 minutes or so, something like that. It doesn't last very long. The car feels funny, you know, it feels funny, and then later on, it feels normal again. You know, my brain readjusted to its previous state, right? Or let's say there's an escalator. That this is probably the best example. Have you noticed that when there's an escalator that is not working, right? And you you make the first step, right? You take the first step. Your body wants to kind of move because the escalator signals that there will be movement as soon as you step on the first step, right? But it doesn't happen, and you kind of you're forced to stop because there's no movement. But psychologically, you were expecting that. Or when there's something that when you expected something to be heavy and it wasn't heavy, right? I guess these are universal things that everybody's familiar with, right? But it is a kind of optical illusion, you know, like it is. I think it is useful to know these things because you can be tricked by your mind, you know. Um, yeah, I remember watching this TED talk about this. They were talking about optical illusions, right? And it is, you know, you can be fooled. You can be fooled. So it is good to know this because it gives you a certain degree of peace. Because it's like when you compare yourself to other people, right? I used to do this a lot. I still do it. I guess everybody does it, you know. That's human nature. I don't do it as much, or I try not to do it as much because I often discover that those people that I may compare myself to, maybe their lives are not as wonderful as I might think. You know, take a beautiful woman for example. Like right, there's women that are very attractive, very beautiful, right? And they're still kind of miserable because oh maybe they would like to have bigger tits or oh I don't like my hair color. I don't. There's always something. Women are very interesting. They will always find fault in something. You know, like a man from a man's point of view, a woman can be just perfect or maybe not perfect, but good enough, like more than enough. But to her, there's something wrong with her, and you think, oh my god, it's a tragedy, really, you know, because you would think that this woman would just be happy that she won the genetic lottery. You know, she's a genetic celebrity, as they say. But no, it's not enough. And oftentimes we discover that you know this can be this can be exploited. You know, like I mean, sometimes you can hook up with women that are more attractive than you because you can exploit this insecurity of theirs. You know, some women, I think, a lot of women are very insecure. So this is one example. I don't want to bash women. I've done enough of that already in the past. I've made peace with that. It's okay. But yeah, man too. Like anybody. Like the, we it's hard for a person to feel content and satisfied. I think everybody always thinks that there's something better, right? Um, which reminds me of that joke. Well, this is a joke about women, but it applies to anybody, but particularly to women. You know how there's 5 floors and women they're shopping for a husband, right? So every time they go up a floor or every level, it gets better. It gets better until they reach the 5th floor. So all the women naturally they want to marry up or they want to you know improve their they want to get as much as they can for their buck, right? So they all go to the 5th floor, and then there's a big sign saying this floor exists just to prove that it's never enough for women. so so the man they were expecting to find here don't exist. But this is just to prove that women will always push the limit to find a better man. And but yeah, okay, so that's a joke on women, fine. But the same with guys, you know. Like guys will, you know, they'll work hard to achieve something because they think, well, now I can do this. Now I can treat myself, and maybe now I can attract the right women or the women I've always wanted. Often men are accused of this, you know, the midlife crisis. Oh, you're acting like a kid. You want to be young again. But then, you know, it's not entirely. I think I can see why people would say such a thing. But many times for a guy, it's different. You know, like if you, it's what you always wanted to do, but you couldn't do it because you didn't have the money. You didn't have the freedom to do it. You always had to sacrifice in in in. I mean, to in the service of something else. I mean, you had to, for example, prioritize your career, or maybe if you have a family, well, your family comes first. You know, assuming you're responsible. So then maybe you get the haughty. Maybe you such a man against all odds. You work very hard. You build your empire, and then you maybe divorce your wife because she's old, right? And then you marry this beautiful woman, and she takes you for all you're worth. This happened to the Amazon guy. I mean, well, no, she didn't take all his money, but I mean, it's still an important amount of money, you know. I mean, so the point is that these look at what happened to Mr. French president. You know, I don't know if you watched the news. This guy, his wife was pushing his face away, it was caught on camera. It was caught on tape, and the guy just tries to play it off. The men have a similar predicament to women. Women might never be happy with their body, with whatever. Maybe they don't have the right job, whatever. There's always a reason to complain. But men too. Look at these men. Look at these high achievers, like Macron. I call him macaron in Spanish. Anyway, so he has he's reached the pinnacle of glory, so to speak. I mean, to be the president of France. I mean, come on. It's not You're not talking about just any country, right? And yet you have this woman, this woman undermining you in public. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you cannot really blame the woman entirely. Like that's a mistake. To be fair, you can criticize women all you want, man, but we have to accept the responsibility and how we participate as men in this and what happens to us. Like a woman will treat you the way you allow her to treat you, man. If you don't walk away, well, you're participating. So that goes for anybody, not just women. But I mean, we are contributors to what happens to us. I think that's one thing I've learned. You know, so let's be content with what we have. Because if we fantasize about all these things, maybe one day it can blow up in your face, like with Mr. President. And you can always say, well, maybe if he had married a younger woman or a more agreeable woman. Well, you never know. You never know. It's probably a reflection of on him more than on her, really, because this woman probably has done this before, and he has allowed it. And when I say he has allowed it, I'm not saying that he should retaliate. You know, he should just walk away, man. With some people, you cannot fight back. You're never gonna win. You're always gonna be portrayed as the aggressor. So I've learned this with women. You shouldn't argue with women. You can argue with women for fun. Like if you don't take it seriously and personally, you can argue with her just to give her a taste of her own medicine. I've done this many times, where I've managed to get a woman to trigger her, just for fun, and then I just so that I can now the shoes in the other foot, because I've been triggered by women many times, and like I said, you cannot blame the woman. It is my own. It has been my own weakness. If you allow someone to trigger you, a lot of it is your fault. Now you can blame that person for initiating the conflict, but you decide whether you want to dance or not and how you want to dance. So nowadays I just argue either because it's fun or because there's something at stake, something important, and in which case I'm not really gonna argue aggressively or I'm not gonna lose my cool. I'm just gonna try to get my point across and get what I need without being too belligerent and without losing my cool, because as a man that is the worst thing you can do in general. And I know this sounds sexist, but when a woman loses her cool, it's okay. It's expected. People will come to her rescue if she loses her cool. Maybe she passes out. It's expected. It's okay. She'll get victim status, and it's fine. But a man, you cannot afford to do that, man. You have to be stoic as a man, and you have to be resilient, and you have to be strong, and I know this is nothing new. I mean, I'm not saying anything new, but this is something I've learned in my own skin. Don't lose your cool, man, especially with women, because then you you've played into her hands. And that goes for everybody, but women are particularly good at doing this, at triggering you. They know how to trigger you. Women are very smart. I'm giving women credit, by the way. I'm not a misogynist here. I love women, by the way. Although, as they say, I'm not the first one to say it. It's a joke, but it's true. You can you can love women or you can understand them. I have chosen to understand women. Yeah, and I think because I understand them, I cannot love them the way I used to love them. I can like them, I can appreciate them, I can have a strong connection with a woman, but I will never love her more than I love myself. That's the important thing. When I was younger, I didn't have enough self-esteem, so I would let women define my self-worth. Terrible mistake, you know. Now I am number one. You know, there's nobody that comes before me, not even my mother. I mean, I'm number one. I'm taking care of me, you know. I'm manifesting. Sorry. But anyway, it's important, man. As a man, I'm not taking a bullet for nobody, man. Hell no. Hell no. You'd have to be my son or my daughter, maybe. Maybe. But I'm not taking a bullet for nobody, man. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. And you know, incidentally, you get better results when you're like that, when you're selfish, you know. Women respond to that. Not every woman, but a lot of women respond to that. Although, to be fair, I'm not in the business of chasing women anymore. At least not aggressively. I don't do it aggressively anymore. Um, I'm receptive, but I don't. Pay for play is cheaper, honestly. I mean, why break your balls trying to please a woman or try to seduce her when you can just, you know. I'm not encouraging this, by the way, but I'm just saying there's alternatives. Yeah, I mean, it's very foolish to tap dance for somebody. I mean, I've done it all my life, you know, but I think I've finally gotten tired of that, man. I mean, it's very pathetic, you know, and there's something to be said for cultivating your own hobbies and your own mind, and I think this is far more valuable than chasing cats, you know. But of course, you don't come to this realization until you're 35 or so, you know. You're still stuck in your juvenile ways, and I guess that this is the way it has to be, you know. Anyway, I've talked too much, man. I mean, it's not like anybody's listening anyway. But I like talking, so it's one of my feminine traits. I love to trigger women sometimes. All right, I gotta do some work and not work, but I mean anyway. Goodbye. Oh shit.